Welcome everyone. This summer learning blitz is from vision to practice using the K-3 literacy playbooks to really strengthen instruction and your leadership. And we all know that literacy outcomes improve when research-based practices are implemented consistently across all the classrooms. But the change isn't just usually finding the research, it's actually taking that research and then translating it into actual daily practice. So the Literacy Essential Playbooks were created to really help educators move from knowing what really works to actually doing what really works. And I want you to think about your own district right now and just think about your own outcomes and thinking about, do teachers have a shared understanding of really what does effective literacy instruction look like? These playbooks can really build a common language for that. So this 1 hour session, we're going to just dive into these playbooks, show you how to locate them, and I really want you to think about how can they work in your own district. Hello again. My name is Heather Palmer, and I'm a literacy consultant here with my colleague Jennifer Bennett, who's also a literacy consultant. And Jennifer and I come from this work from multiple different lenses, from being a teacher and coach, consultants, building leaders. Jennifer was a principal, I was a coach, but we've really both experienced the challenge of helping staff move from awareness to implementation. So really our goal today is not to just tell you what to do, but just to share practical ways that these resources can support the work that you're already doing. And we want you to leave with having an understanding of what these playbooks are and how to use them in your own building. So looking at our purpose and our agenda for today, our why is really that literacy achievement doesn't improve through isolated initiatives. It improves when schools create coherent systems around high quality instruction. And our what is really we're thinking about, we're going to unpack these resources embedded within the playbooks and show you how these can support leadership, coaching, and professional learning. And how, even though this is a webinar style, we are going to have time at the end to explore, discuss more ways, share you some documents, also just so you can kind of have some more one-on-one time with us if you have more questions about what these playbooks look like and how you can implement them within your own district. So one thing I appreciate about Michigan's work is that it recognizes instruction and systems must work together. So great instruction doesn't just happen by accident, it happens because leaders create conditions for it. So the essential instructional practices tell us what should happen in the classroom, but the organizational practices tell us what leaders and leadership teams should do to support those classroom practices and the systems that need to be put in place in order to support those essentials. So you can see here, here's our suite of all of our essential practices, but they must go hand in hand with the organizational practices to help and support this work move forward. So when we kind of dive in and look at this purpose, if we take a minute to really look at the purpose of the playbooks, they're very intentionally designed to support all educators. They're not textbooks, they are implementation guides, and every component serves as a purpose. So by building knowledge, providing examples, supporting reflection, guiding the action that we're going to be doing, the question shouldn't be, did we read the playbook? The question should be, how are we using the playbook to improve instruction? So if we take a little look at what is in the playbook before we actually go into it, I just want to share with you what is actually in here. But I first want to give a shout out to Heather Phelps from MAISA and all the hard work she has done to create these playbooks with her team. This work was designed by educators for educators. And Heather Phelps and the MESA team have been instrumental in ensuring that these resources remain practical, but also guided in research. And as you can see from this page, there are different parts of the playbook, starting from the Michigan support all the way through the resources. So this is kind of what a guide looks like. And it starts off with just the Michigan support page, but you can see there, and we're going to dive into it a little bit more later, but you can see how the essentials are connected to MDE and their work, but also letters. We know that teachers K-5 need to be taking the course in letters, and they give you the connections that they can make through this. They give you the background and information, the why and the what. So really grounding us with what the context is and grounding us with the research and what it says. And it also gives you different types of bullet pages of what the look fors are. So what should the teacher be doing, the children, what the environment should be looking about, depending on which essential practice you chose. Common courtesies, we have the researchers that are really kind of diving in more into some of their research that they've done about the essential practice. A peek into the classroom. So again, giving you a little bit more look at what should the classroom be looking like when you walk in. And then, of course, the research page with all the hyperlinks. So this is overall what your playbook looks like, but we're going to take a deeper dive into it, just talking about it in a little bit more depth. So when we think about the playbook, this is where the playbooks become incredibly useful because when we have this type of page here, each bullet of the playbooks, they include videos so educators can visualize the practice. Which also the essential practices have videos as well, but they also, for the playbooks, they have tools and routines to support the implementation. Again, like I already said, there's a connection to letters, which is huge because that's something that MDE, we're really trying to make sure that we are learning from letters and learning more about the science of reading. We also, again, have the look fors to support coaching conversations and also principal to teacher conversations about when you're in a coaching cycle, what should be some things that we can be using for our goal. They give you also strategies and tips that teachers can use immediately, but it provides clarity about what quality implementation actually looks like for the teacher. So when we go ahead and we go a little bit deeper, when we think about every section just follows a predictable structure. So we're going to take a look here in a minute. I'm going to show you what they actually look like, but some things just to kind of ground you a little bit more about what you're going to see is what it is, why does it matter, what does explicit instruction actually look like, what should the teachers be doing, what should the students be doing. And that consistency is very powerful because it just reduces confusion. And one of the biggest barriers to implementation is when everyone has a different interpretation of the same practice. So that's why these are so important because it's clear, it's concise, and everyone's reading the same thing. So one more thing that I really do appreciate too about the playbook, and this probably is one of my favorite sections that the essentials don't have. Addresses the questions educators are already asking, so it helps reduce misconceptions before they become barriers, which I feel is really huge. It provides research-based answers from the experts that are in the field instead of debating opinions, or teams can engage in discussion around the actual evidence. So every playbook has the common courtesy just to ground some more further discussion with teachers and leaders about a certain literacy topic. So what we're going to do now is I'm going to actually take you through the playbook, how to get there. I'm going to drop the link and show you what you need to do in order to actually access these playbooks. But I first just want to show you too that we're going to go to theessentials.org. We're going to select our instructional practices. We're going to make sure we click on the K3 resources. But first, I want you to just look at here are the playbooks that you have already. So we have the read aloud playbook, small group, phonological awareness, phonics, and writing. So I want you to think right now about your own district and your own initiatives and your own school improvement plan, and just take a minute and just think about which one would you really want to dive in first. What is something that you're really thinking about? And as you're doing that, I'm going to go ahead and log out of this to stop share so that you can see how to actually get to here. So the easiest way, you can just go to Google in your toolbar. You can just click on literacyessentials.org. And that is going to be, if Jennifer, if you don't mind just dropping that into the chat, that'd be great. Because I want everyone to just have that access to the link. But when you get here, you're going to notice right now, you're going to see on the page, you're going to see all of the essentials. So we can have birth to age 3 all the way down to 12th grade. So this is really an initiative for all students. And they have all of the essentials here. But what you're going to do is you're going to go up to the very tab, the first one. And at the top, you see the essential instructional practices. You see the professional learning, landing pages, and ordering. And what we're really going to spend some time on right now is just getting into the practices. So when you hover over the essential instructional practices, we're going to scroll all the way down to the K3 literacy resources. And when we get here, the first thing that you're always going to see are those essentials. And we know that the essentials go hand in hand with our coaching practices. So if you're lucky enough to have a coach in your building, this is where the coaches would go to really look in to ground themselves with best practices for coaching. But the coaching practices and the essential practices, they just go hand in hand. And then if we just keep scrolling down, you're going to see the ISD coaching cycle data collection. You're going to see local building principal coaching cycle data collection. You're going to see also the landing page, which just gives you a lot of helpful tips and resources. But the one that we're going to spend the time on are right down here. So when you scroll, this is where you're going to see all the essentials and the playbook. So again, we have the read aloud, the small group, phonological awareness, the phonics, and the writing. And then you also see there are other essentials here, but these are the ones that have playbooks for them just for right now. So we're going to go ahead and click on, if you just look at the picture, you're going to hover over it. It'll give you a little pointer finger. You're going to then go ahead and click on that. And then it's going to take you to a Google Drive folder, which I actually like that it's not directly the link, because this is an easy way to, you could just go ahead and organize this right away, add shortcut to your drive, and then you can already have it there. And this is an easy way for you as a coach or a teacher leader or a principal just to then go ahead and share this with your staff. You don't have to give them the link and give them all of the steps to get to the essentials. It's already in your drive, which was a nice shortcut I liked. So when we double click on that, it's going to open up. And when we get here, this is what you're going to see. It gives you a QR code to scan, and these are for the digital resources that are contained in the playbook. They also give you a lot of resources that I know Jen's just going to hit on a little bit more about leaders and slide decks and everything like that. She's going to talk more about that. But I really like that it kind of just grounds us that we know through the essential literacy practices, it's really for every child, every classroom, every day. So it's just really talking more about the purpose and the mission. But for this one, it's talking about writing. So how writers need to have opportunities daily, provides intentional research, inform instruction. They use writing to deepen comprehension and so on. So it's kind of just grounding you that this is really the purpose of the writing playbook. And then it goes into a table of contents, just showing you all that's included into what the playbook is. And here's where I really was talking about before. This is just grounding us with the research, grounding us. What is writing? Why does writing matter? What are the benefits of writing? What's the purpose of it? Just grounding us with some deep information. And then it takes you into where you're really looking at What Works Clearinghouse, gives you some important resources from there, especially for the time. It gives you how you can write with multiple purposes. Again, it's giving you some more research. Right here, they're talking more about the writing rope. They really covered a lot about handwriting. They have that in there as well. They even have a link to a podcast here. So again, as a coach and even as a leader, this is a wonderful opportunity to go slow with this. Like, take your time with it, really kind of dive into this, even at the beginning of your school year. If this is one of your initiatives, these resources are all hyperlinked, which is wonderful because you could be using this to start your professional learning. And then it goes into high quality instructional materials, and it even links, the MDE, the reading curricular list here. that talks about the prioritizing professional learning. So it goes really into dyslexia. So how is this connected to dyslexia? How is this connected? Right here, we have our essentials. And how is this connected to letters? And so the whole purpose is really to be making sure we're making those connections into our statewide initial initiatives, thinking about our essentials, and then also the professional learning that we're asking teachers to do. And then we get into the bullets. So with all of the essentials, there's typically around 5, 6 bullets within one of those headings of essential practice. And they go into a lot of information. Again, these are all hyperlinked, but in the actual essential practices, there's modules. And what I love about the playbook is they're making the module connection from the essential practice, the module that you are doing, with the actual with the actual playbook. So you're really bridging those connections between what have I just been learning about the essential practices and doing those essential practice modules to now deepen my learning with these playbooks. And again, they have look fors for what should the teacher be doing? What should the children be doing? What does the environment look like? And then also it goes into, again, strategies and tips about how that could actually look like. They give you the IES practice guide, which is wonderful because it's actually hyperlinked right here. So you don't have to go look for it if you want to get into this a little bit more and dive into the recommendations. Everything is hyperlinked here for you. So those are for so that's one bullet. And there's like 5 bullets here. So they all look the same, all with letters connection, modules connection, giving you a lot of different types of links here that you can just go in and get the hyperlink for. And then we have also, this one is explicit letter formation. So they give you a lot of different hyperlinks that are talking about handwriting, spelling strategies, capitalization, punctuation. But again, I just want to point out the importance of all of these hyperlinks. All the resources are here right for you. So it's really an easy access to get into the hands of leaders and coaches and teachers. So it's just easy for you to use and also have conversation about as well. And then you go into, again, this is when I talked about the common courtesy. This is Dr. Megan Block, who she's a researcher about phonological awareness. So it's just making some conversation starters. And I feel like as a coach and even as a principal or a school leader, these are great conversations to have at your tables during professional learning or a staff meeting to really make sure that we are all on the same page with understanding what the research says about and this playbook, which is writing. And then again, it gives you a peek into the classroom. So it gives you a little overview about what it actually looks like, gives you connections to mentor texts, another peek into the classroom about, different types of text structure, organization. This is with writing. So mind you, this is going to look different for read alouds and so on. But I just wanted to use this as just a sample of what you would actually see. And then this is the last part. Again, I want to just show you that there are highlighted resources, a must read. So they give you, again, the hyperlinks are right there for you, which is amazing because we don't get that all the time. So if you wanted to go into this even deeper into more, you could just click on the hyperlinks, which is great. So if we go back though, I just want to share with you a little bit more before I pass this over to my colleague, Jennifer. I want you just to think about as a coach. If you are a coach, and even if you're a principal, I feel like this would be very beneficial too, because it still talks a lot about the teacher learning process. But how would you use this as a coach? And I'm just going to talk to you about 3 different types of coaching cycles and how you could use these into your actual coaching cycle. So, student-centered coaching by Diane Sweeney and Leanna Harris. And this is just a typical student-centered coaching cycle. What you would see here, you start off with those setting the standards based on the goals. You develop those learning targets. Then you go into that pre-assessment. But then right here, the 4 and the 5, this is really where the magic happens. Your co-planning, your co-teaching. This is exactly, as a coach, I would bring in these playbooks. I would be bringing them in about using them just as a kind of like a mentor text about let's look to see what this looks like in the classroom. What does the research say? What does this say that our classroom should look like and the students be doing and the teacher be doing? And just have this during this 4 and 5 right here, just to really make sure we're grounding this before we go into the co-teaching. So this would be a document I'd bring in during that co-planning. And then you end with the post-assessment. So that's an example from the student-centered. And if we go on to Jim Knight, which is the impact cycle, we have identify, learn, and improve. And where I would bring it in as a coach would be right here in the learning. So we have identified, what is our goal, what is the current reality, what is like the teaching strategy that we're going to be using. But right over here, he talks a lot about checklist and modeling. And checklists are in the playbooks that kind of give you a checklist about what's a peak in a classroom, what does that look like, and also modeling. So I would bring this in when we're doing those checklists and we're creating those together. I would be thinking about what are some goals that when we look here at this playbook, what we want to see in your own classroom. How could we, how could I use this playbook to model a lesson for you? And then go into the improving station, which this goes into then the direction and review, the actions that are taking, the improvements, but I would definitely be pulling this in during the learning section. And then the last one I want to show you is the No More Random Acts of Literacy Coaching by Erin Brown and Susan Lallier. And this really talks about goal setting, really grounding ourselves with the research, and then going into the co-planning. So as a coach, I would be bringing this in around the research and goal setting, but also I would bring this into the co-planning. So I would use this as a document to really ground our knowledge about whatever the goal is. For example, I just used writing as an example. But I would really make sure that I would be using this with teachers to think about how could I use this to kind of implement these strategies and help our goal for sustainability. So just for one more example that I just want to share with you is if we look at a specific example that focuses the research and standards aligned writing instruction across the day, that was just the one that I used for you. The highlighted bullet focuses on writing processes. But notice how the playbook doesn't just tell the teachers to teach writing, it actually explains to them what do the students need to know, what teachers should be doing, and then what does the implementation look like. And I feel like that's so relevant and so important as a coach and also just someone who's supporting the work is, yes, we know that this essential practice is so powerful, but what does it actually look like? And that's what's so powerful about the actual playbooks. This moves writing instruction from being event-based to process-based, meaning that we're really actually understanding what it really looks like. So with that, I'm going to stop sharing and I'm going to pass this over to my colleague, Jen.
Thank you, Heather. I'm Jennifer Bennett. And as Heather shared, we both have some different perspectives, and we know folks that are watching this are going to have different roles in the school. So I'm going to lead you through this section as we think of playbooks as a principal. And so I've held that role prior to coming to Wayne Reese as well as a teacher and literacy coach. And so what we know as a principal is there's a lot of things on your plate. And what I really want to start by thinking about is although you're seen as educational leader in your school, you're really not alone. And so we hope that you can leverage the expertise of your staff, particularly your leadership team. Now, you might have a literacy leadership team. You might have a group. You might have a MyKIP team, or you might have different committees. But you want to make sure you're thinking about who is on your team helping you determine those strategies and what you're going to be studying together through this school year. And so my KIP might be set at a district level. There might be input. There's hopefully some data that's used, but really the teachers that are working in the classrooms are really so important to have a voice at the table as you're thinking about setting your professional learning plan for the year. And so, as we think about that, really kind of coming up with your game plan. So, who are for your professional learning, your playbooks are your resource. It's like if you think about it, I think of a playbook. I think of like a football team, and what are the plays we're going to run, and because we want to achieve something, right? We want to win, we want to score. But really, as we're thinking about this in practice, we have student achievement. We have students in front of us every day that we want to continue to help them grow. And so this should help you think about what are those strategies that you're going to put into place and really hone in on this year. So you might already have a leadership team, and if you have, if you haven't yet, that's the very first thing is thinking about who should be on that team. Once you have that team established, you can think about your meeting cadence, really as that small team defining your vision and mission and beliefs of your school and your literacy learning in your school, and making sure it's connected to your MyKit. We want to make sure that your goals to improve literacy achievement, there's strategies. And so through these essential practices, they're really everything that can be done to tighten up in your school, to help teachers get better at their craft, to impact the students that are sitting in front of us every day. So if you don't have a literacy leadership team yet, this planner can help you think about that. We'll look at this real quickly here, but as you can see, you can think about the literacy team members that are on here. You can think about when you're going to meet. And so just like a little planning guide that I've already talked about. And so what's nice about the samples underneath here, as you can see, if you're not sure of like what could the vision, mission, or belief statements be, there are some really nice examples there. And so your team can have this document to kind of ground your work and really set your plan for the year. And so Heather had mentioned these other documents that are resources to you. And really, if we look closely at what does a leadership team do? What does a literacy leadership team do? This really helps guide our thinking here. So both of these documents can help you read deeper about the whole school, envisioning for the whole school, and it also can be a screening guide to help you think about, you can kind of look at it holistically, and your team could self-assess. You could have grade level teams self-assess, you could have your leadership team self-assess, and that could really help you zoom in on areas to support your school. So if we click on this here, you can kind of look at this a little bit closer. Let's see, it's taking a minute to load. Here we go. As you can see here, the screening tool starts with the leadership team. And you could think about, is this true, all the way to not true at all. If we've done this work, and it kind of goes along, you could think about the learning environment, professional learning. So it's very comprehensive. And so you could think about how this could help really drive your work. And then the end here does help you kind of self-assess and pull all your scores together and choose your kind of priority. So of course we're literacy, so we're going to dig into the area on this under the literacy leadership team. So let me go back for you here. So if you'd like to stop and think about it right now, how can you, where are you in this journey? How could these resources really help you? If you're a principal, if you're a literacy coach, if you're a PLC leader, if you're, beginning of your career as a teacher, wherever you are, how can you think about these resources supporting your school and the students in your school? So I want you to stop and do that. keep going and share some more resources with you. So let's say you've got your leadership team in place. We're going to move forward and think about how those MyKIP goals and strategies that you need to connect to that professional learning for your teachers so they can feel empowered with the skills to implement them in the classroom. So leadership teams in place. What are those essential practices that you're going to dig in and really study and learn together as a leadership team? And you're going to use these playbooks to do that. And then your leadership team will feel empowered and that they can answer questions for and you can kind of spread that leadership out amongst teachers, because as a school leader, as a teacher leader, it really is important for a lot of voices to be at the table when decisions are being made about professional development. And so this is a great way to really think about honing in your craft. And then also, when are those times that this learning can then be shared with staff? Are we going to think about professional learning days? Is there opportunities at staff meetings for maybe 20 minutes of learning? Could PLC time be used for grade level teams to study and learn? If you're lucky enough to have a literacy coach at your school, Heather had shared how those could be used in coaching cycles. And then once you're really thinking about that and have some plan in place, you can then gauge how that implementation is really working and provide feedback. So your learning walks can happen as leadership teams and peers, classroom teachers could be going through classrooms and giving some of that, looking at what's happening, and as administrators, walkthroughs could also support that. So I'm going to click on and share with you the essentials here. And so we can see here. So let me just show you this resource at a glance. As a principal, it's hard to know everything all the time. There's so many different areas. So this is a real quick glance of what the essential practice is, what the topic. Obviously, you can click on the playbook here. What does that read aloud? What's the topic? It gives you like that description of what that means, and then some of the standards that would fall under that. So you might have a MyKIP plan that's really based around data and standards. This could help you kind of navigate backwards. So either way, this is just another resource to help you navigate all the different playbooks. And then let me see here. And if you'd like to look at data to determine some of your strategies that you're going to focus in on, again, we'll share our emails at the end, and you could email me. That is some of the work that I do is work with school leaders, school improvement teams to look at data and analyze that data. So your MyKIP strategies are aligned. So let me go to the next slide here. And if you're not, let's see, there we go. So there's so much professional learning support, but time is always an issue, right? So what's nice about these playbooks is that there is flexibility. And I feel like that clock is spinning fast, and that's what we feel like in a school year, right? We have all summer, we get a chance to kind of rejuvenate, and then we hit the ground running as soon as school starts. So what's nice about these playbooks is that there is flexibility within the playbooks. So I'm going to show you an example of that. So I'm going to put this link here in the chat in just a moment, but what you'll notice here is that you can choose different modes of time. So there's slide deck, just general ways to kind of dig into those. It gives you some protocols, ways to break things down into chunks. So you can go to 20 minutes to 40 minutes. You can also dig into a full playbook depending on how much time you have. So again, do you have 1 hour staff meetings? Do you have half days, full day professional development days coming up? You can think about the time and the place that you have available, and think about how would these fit inside of those. So let me put this.
I just put in the chat, Jen.
Oh, perfect. Thank you. So we'll take a minute and let you look at leading learning, the professional learning support. And when we after you look at that for just a moment, I will ask you what you notice and what you find to be important to use in that. So if you are watching this asynchronously, you can kind of skip ahead a few minutes, but we're going to take just a pause for just about 2 minutes to take a look at this resource on your own. Okay, I'm going to bring you back, and I know you probably would love to spend some more time with us, but let's just take a look at this together. As you clicked on this, hopefully you found it right away. You were able to kind of scroll down and get to this section. And oftentimes I'm going to just go to like a full playbook. So you know that you're really focusing on writing as a staff. We'll just keep going with Heather's example. And so you might go down to the specific playbook down here, or you might have a protocol for a half a day PD day. So let's say I want to go through writing for, I have a half a day that I would like to use. So you could click on this resource here, and it provides slides to really help you facilitate learning with your whole staff. And so as a teacher leader, as a principal, this would really support you in that. So as you can notice here, there's different options available, and you can kind of choose for those options. And so if we click on this active learning, you can go through, and it kind of gives you the timing of everything to walk through it. It helps you, shares how to facilitate the learning in a jigsaw. You can even provide some noticings for peers here. So as you can go through this, you'll notice that it really helps you think about how you can make this, take the time for your staff to really go through this and dig into it and have some meaningful conversations and build their understanding collaboratively with their time spent in those, for this example, a half a day PD. So that's pretty generic up there. You can also dig into the playbooks specifically by different areas. So I'm going to click on just this one to show you the difference here. So this playbook digs into small group, and again the why, and it kind of walks you through it. So your staff would either have a digital version of the playbook in front of them so they can click on those hyperlinks, or you can kind of have that presented on a board in front of them. And I think that's most meaningful to have it digitally, so hopefully technology is available for them to either work individually and then have those small group conversations and then pull it back whole group. So anyway, so here are some of the ways. And so again, it gives you those facilitation moves, thinking about how teachers can talk, share 1 to 2 reasons with a partner about what a small group instruction offer that whole group doesn't. And then it kind of walks you through those playbooks. So by no means do we expect anybody here to be an expert in these playbooks. So really, this really helps you to just go through this and really spend the bulk of your time, instead of planning how to dig into these playbooks, spend the bulk of your time finding ways to have those meaningful conversations and study and learn together. Okay, so I'm going to bring us back here again. And so hopefully this kind of menu here can help you think about the time that you have available and the place, and thinking about the different resources you have that are connected to your MyKit plan and your strategies that you really are your initiative this school year. So I'll let you reflect on this. When will you use these? Which presentations did you like best? And what are your next steps? And if you're watching this asynchronously, hopefully you can just pause this and stop and think about that. Of our folks that are joining us here live, and jot down your thoughts before we move on, wrap up today. Okay, so we know that just because we taught it doesn't mean we learned it, right? So how can we make sure that we're implementing and sustaining our practice? So let's play this out. We had a chance, we studied this playbook. We've done it in our PD days. We had some time at our staff meeting to go back and review it. We've had PLC conversations. That's great. And so what are other ways that we can all norm ourselves to what it looks like in our school with our students and the curricular resources that we have, right? So you can do that by thinking about, co-planning, lesson studies, learning walks, some peer observations or coaching cycles. And so I just want to share with you this video, and hopefully we can, around learning walks. If you haven't experienced learning walks, they're really a great way for teachers. And this video has a lot of people. It can really be done with 1 or 2 people just visiting a colleague's classroom. It doesn't have to be the example that they shared. Oops, here, let me click on example here. Hold on 1 second. Let me stop sharing for just a moment here, and I will click on the video about learning walks. Oh, just a little further down. Okay. Okay. My screen again. And if you would like to show this video, and we'll also provide these links to you so you can have these videos. So, all right, so here's an example. We'll show just a clip of this, of a learning walk, and Edutopia has a nice video on this. So here we go.
What's another strategy?
Area model.
Area model. Okay, who wants to do an area model?
Because the lab school staff gets regular opportunities to participate in learning walks, both as participants and also as hosts, it really strengthens the culture of the school, helps build the shared vision, and allows a spirit of continuous learning. The lab school is located on a university campus in the College of Education, and we have a dual mission to serve the children at the school, which is currently kindergarten through grade 8, as well as pre-service teachers
Learning Walks is a big part of our mission. It gives people who are teaching in our school, as well as people who are learning how to be teachers, the opportunity to watch other people teach, which you don't generally get because you're in your classroom teaching all the time.
A learning walk is just a structured observation through a school. It's used for continuous growth and improvement. It is important that all teachers get to experience what it's like to observe in other teachers' classrooms and learn from others, as well as to have teachers come in and visit them and learn from them.
I really like Learning Walks, especially as a fairly new teacher to this building. It's really helped me gain the perspective on what my students have experienced. It facilitates this, we're all in this together, what can we learn from each other? Some of the times the best things that are going on are happening in your own building, and you might miss them because you're doing your own thing too.
Can run at a rate of 11 feet.
Okay, so I just wanted to show you really a quick clip there. If you haven't experienced Learning Walks or haven't had a chance to facilitate those, it's just a nice way for teachers to see that learning. So you study it, you talk about it in theory, and then what does it look like in practice? So if that's something that you'd like some support in getting started, again, we'll share our emails at the end, and we can definitely support you in that work as well. So if you're watching this as a principal, you could think about how could I use walkthroughs to really collect that evidence of implementation, give that positive feedback to staff, and it really does support that professional learning. So when teachers see principals in the classroom studying and learning and seeing how this is all coming about, they feel empowered and they feel that the work that they're doing is meaningful. So I have a couple examples here that I'm going to share with you about how you could use a Google form, and your district might have a walkthrough form already, but this is something that I used. I scheduled some walkthroughs per grade. I would just take my month and look at what grades I want to try to get to, and try to make sure that I was, if we're looking at a 4 weeks in a month, what grades I was going to try to get to each week, so that once a month teachers had an opportunity to see me and get feedback, and I was able to then collect evidence of the implementation. So we're teaching, we're working through all these things. How does it look in a classroom? And so are there misconceptions that we need to address quickly, and then come back and study together again? And this helps you do this. So for example, the walkthrough tool was just a quick Google form. I'm gonna, let me get to that. Exit slideshow. Okay, so I'm gonna share one with you here. So hopefully you can see that on here. As a principal, like I know we're studying, literacy practice 2, or thinking about read alouds. And so this really aligns to those playbooks. It's not, the wording aligns. And so you studied this with your staff. Now, what does it look like in a classroom? Am I finding evidence of that in the classroom? So, so this is just kind of some reminders for you as a principal. Did you notice this? It's not yet evident, it's emerging, it's proficient. And so, and then at the end, it's an opportunity to then look around the classroom and do the environment checklist. So, are you seeing evidence of the learning that's been done together as a staff on the walls? And then we always want to try to, I try to think about the feedback that I want to give while I'm there. And so before maybe I step out of the classroom, or before I leave that space, what's something that I noticed that the teacher did that positively impacted students, and that students may benefit from more opportunities doing something. And so I would just type those in, and then as a Google form, you have you can go in as a spreadsheet, and then I would open my email, say a couple, obviously make it personalized, but then copy and paste the feedback that I thought of. And so I would do all my emails when I can sit down and just kind of go and do them all. But again, if you want to do them while you're there, you can do that also. But this collects it, because then as you're doing these walkthroughs throughout months, throughout the school year, you can see your Google form results. You can kind of see how things have evolved throughout the year for each teacher. And so that's just another way for you to kind of notice how our work that we're teaching teachers around, how is that being implemented in the classroom. So hopefully we will share a couple of those examples with you that you can use. You can get off the ground, make a copy, and use right away. So hopefully you find that helpful as a school leader to utilize that. But so again, here are our emails. We wanted to make sure that through this hour that we have together with you, we know that we walk through a lot of things, resources quickly with you, but hopefully with the time remaining that you have, you can stop and pause the video and look through the resources and start planning the work with your leadership team or with your colleagues of how to use these playbooks to really elevate the learning environment in your school. So again, here are our contact information. We hope that you reach out to us so we can support you with this work. Thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, everyone.